easier, right? Malcolm showed them some technology, ways to make work easier, right? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to try to make some folders, okay? Oh. So, I'm going to show you the instructions, okay, on how to make these folders. And I'm going to show you the materials. Who can read number 1 for me? Number 1. Dashwan, can you read that nice and loud?
Using a ruler and a pencil, draw straight lines 1/4 inch or 0.5 centimeters from the edge of 3 sides, 4 short and 1 long side of a piece of construction paper.
Okay, so he told me, and over here I have our materials at the table, on one side of a construction piece of paper, okay? And how am I going to know, first of all, to make straight lines and to do 1/4 inch or 5/10 of a centimeter? What do I need to use? What tool, technology, is going to help me to do that? Devontae, what's going to help me? A ruler, you got it. So over here on the side, right, I have my construction paper, I have my ruler. And how many sides do I have to do that on? 3. Good. How about number 2? What do I do for the second step? Lena.
Put a second piece of construction paper behind the first piece, holding them horizontally.
Okay, so I'm going to have 2 pieces, holding them together after drawing on one, okay, horizontally. Is this horizontal or is this horizontal? No. Yes or no?
No.
Vertical. Good. Horizontal. So we need to make sure we hold it that way. Third step. Step in the process. Go ahead, Cassidy. Nice and loud.
Staple along the pencil line, placing staples about 1 inch or 3 centimeters apart.
Next step, 4. Step 4. Beyonce, go ahead.
Take the half sheet of paper, pencil pocket to the front of the phone.
Okay, so over here again at my materials table, my ruler, my 2 pieces of construction paper. This time we get a nice little yellow half sheet, and this is going to be your pencil pocket, so you can tuck your pencils in, okay, to the front of the folder. Using what? Tape. Good. Last step. Last step. Abraham, what do I do?
Draw a straight horizontal line across the pencil engineering on the line.
Perfect. So, again, I want to make sure I use my ruler for my straight line and then write the word engineering. Now I'm going to keep these up so everyone can see these folder instructions. So I'm going to keep these up for everyone to see. But first thing you're going to do is you're going to get some materials and you're going to make some folders on your own. Okay? And you're only going to have so much time to make these engineering folders. I'm only going to give you about 10 minutes, okay, to make as many folders as you can on your own. Now, if you are a person who has to wait for your materials, okay, because I'm going to have the timer, okay, now I'm going to have the timer going. You won't be able to see it because you're going to have the instructions. I'm going to have the timer going. And as you raise your hand to wait, okay, for a material, I'm going to make a tally mark, okay? And we're going to see how many tally marks we have for people who are waiting to use some of these materials. All right. When I say go, that's when you're going to start making your own folders. If you're waiting, Abraham, for material, what do you do?
Raise your hand.
Abraham. I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you. What do you do? Raise your hand. Silently, though, okay? And then when the material is back in the center of the table, that's when you can take it. All right? Because I have to tally that. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, you may begin. Silently. Silently. Making your folders. For lesson 2, where they design engineering folders, and they have to do it independently as well as in an assembly line, I want them to walk away knowing that having a job in a particular process and working together is going to be more helpful and more beneficial to get the job done, more efficient, more effective. So that's kind of what I want to reiterate as we go through the lesson and compare the difference between making things on your own versus in an assembly line. Okay, whatever folder you're working on, go ahead and finish that folder, but raise your hand if you're waiting for a tool, okay? Because I still need to record that. Just raise your hand if you're waiting. Okay. Right now, count how many folders you have made. Okay? Now we need to total up what the class made though. So we'll add those entries. Okay? So we had 25 total. So go ahead and write that in. 25. Okay, so it says, again, what problems did you have when you made folders on your own? So the problems I had were what? Stapling and getting the right amount of tape. Okay, Sharice, can you add anything to that?
Just like when you said with the stapler, it took a long time. Because some people were stapling a whole lot of stapling and stapling close together.
So what about number 3? What about number 3? What could you do to solve some of these problems? What could we do? Beyonce. An assembly line. What's an assembly line?
It's like, well, when like you be like, when each person has a job.
Where each person has a job? Do you know like an everyday real world situation where they use an assembly line? Where each person has a job to do this part and then this part and it keeps going down the line? Another one. Cars. That's a big one, isn't it? The assembly line almost originated from working with cars and doing certain parts of the car because it has so many parts. All right? Is we're going to create or make an assembly line and we're going to try to make more folders if we can than we did on our own because everyone will have a specific job, a part that they're going to do. Yes, Sharice? We're actually going to do it right now. Yes, we are. First person draws one line, 1/4 of an inch. Second person draws the second line. Third person draws the third line. So by the time you're done, your paper will look like this. They pass it to Camilla. Camilla, what are you going to do? Staple the back to the folder. That's your job. Okay? Then she passes it to Gino. Gino, what are you going to do? Tape the pocket to the front, and then you hand it to her. What's she going to do? Quanita, what are you going to do? Draw the line and write the word? Engineering. Very, very good. Okay, so are there any questions about what you guys are going to do? Absolutely. What you do is after, Quanasia made a good point. When he's done the first paper, the first line, and he passes it to her, is he just going to sit there and wait till that folder is done? Start the next one. You keep going, just like a factory. Exactly. You keep going and working on your part of the job, and if the person in front of you says, wait, I'm kind of backed up, I'm a little too slow, then maybe stop for a couple of seconds to wait for them to catch up. But otherwise, keep going, the same pace, and eventually it'll get to a rhythm, just as if you're passing it on to the next person.
Ready, set, go.
It's very important to have classroom management in place, and what are the rules and expectations even before each lesson on what you're doing, and as they go through, making sure that they understand what's expected of them. Reviewing, constantly going over those rules and expectations throughout the year have really helped them. And they also understand that they're going to work with every single one of their classmates. So if they don't really like someone in their class or they don't get along with them, they understand that they have to respect them and be civil to them because they're going to still have to work together as a team, as engineers or as scientists. All right. Right now, you're finishing the folders, okay, for your pocket folder. You made 13 folders. How many did your group make? 9 folders. What is 13 plus 9? 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. 22. Interesting. Interesting.
Oh, because you have...
Oh, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. Cassidy, what were you going to say about our findings here?
Because you have to wait for the other person to get ready. And people...
Okay.
Too many papers.
Some people's job took a longer amount of time than another person's job. That's true. Camilla?
When I was a stapler person, and the people that made the lines, they would finish real early, and it was a big stack of papers on my desk, and they would be like, "Get it done, Camille, get
Okay.
it done."
Now, if, for example, because Beyonce, I took some papers away from her as well as some people were still drawing the lines. I took some paper away. If we hadn't taken those papers away, do you think you would have made more than 22?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we think about that, then it was probably like 10 more, right? You guys was about 5 more. So if I added those in, let's say I add the 15 that you didn't get a chance to finish, that would be 7 and 3. That would be 37. That would be more than if we made it on our own. Which folder making method was faster? Okay, which folder making method was faster, and why do you think so? This one, the assembly line. So the assembly line. Why do we think so? Raise your hand and tell me. Why do you think the assembly line was better than on your own? What do you think? Camilla.
Because you could just, if like it was a person making a line, they didn't have to wait. They could just keep on going, and then the materials would become available because it was just one person that needed the material.
Very good. Last part, number 3 says, what are some things that you could do to improve your assembly line? Now, you guys told me that the stapler people, because there was a lot to their job, what could we have done to make it easier for them? To improve our assembly line, we could have added more people to the stapler position. Okay? Any other ways that we could have maybe helped? Any other ways we could have helped? Other than adding another stapler person? Beyonce? There you go. So maybe even more materials, meaning like more staplers, more tape, things like that. Okay? Valina?
More time.
Good. That's true too. That goes for a lot of things, doesn't it? If I have more time to do something, it's probably going to be better. And when we talked about the assembly line, we talked about how you did folders independently, which means on your own. And then we talked about the difference between working on your own versus as a group, where one person has a job for that process, okay? So last night's homework was similar to what we talked about in class, where you had to answer some questions in paragraph form, right, on what you noticed with doing the assembly line, okay? Now, Beyonce, what'd you put down? What would you do to improve?
To improve the assembly line, I would add more people and add more materials and add more time.
Okay, very good, okay? Second question on our reflection. Who can read that one for us? Myra, can you read it nice and loud?
Could this work in a real world situation? If so, give an example.
Okay, so could this work in a real world situation? Yes, and if so, explain, or tell me no. And then just give me a little example too of why it wouldn't work. Beyonce, can you read what you wrote?
Yes, example, building cars is a process.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry, the last part.
Yes, example, building cars is process.
Is a process. There you go. Building cars. That's a good real world example. Okay. Good. Very good reflections. So looking at, looking at an assembly line and how it's a process and how things work, does it kind of make sense now how the engineering design process is a process that helps us to do things and solve problems? Does that make more sense? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, good.